you so comfortable with self-promotion? Honest, I just got tired of being broke. That's really it. I realized if I just kept quiet and I didn't say what I was doing, and I'm gonna say this especially to the ladies in the room, there's a lot of conversation right now of like know worth, know your value, all this stuff, but we're assuming that people know. You know, every day I get requests for free speaking gigs, for free labor, all this other stuff, and sometimes I wanna be like, do you not know that Oprah picked my book? Right? People genuinely don't know. Most of you have never met me until today. So if I don't say it, how are you gonna find out?
That's right. Everybody give us a warm Podfest welcome to Bernadette Joy.
Yay! Woo! Thanks for coming in, come on. Lock the door so they can't get out. Okay. Awesome. I'm from New York City. I talk really fast. So I write articles in CNBC and Forbes and CNET and other places. So if you want to be featured and say that as featured in, hit me up. And the book was just named one of the top 10 books in 2025 for personal growth by Oprah. Yes, that Oprah. So it's a good read, I promise. So let's get started. How many of you want to make more money? Raise your hands. Oh, some of you didn't raise your hands. That's interesting. I'll talk to you later. So today I want to talk to you about 5 proven steps that I've taken to turn my podcast into profit. And I didn't put this in the title in the actual schedule, but it is a pretty badass book. So that's what we're going to do. I legit thought that this was a scam when I first got the pitch to write a book. I was just telling my new friend here that I had no interest in writing a book. And when I think about it, it's because I had major imposter syndrome. I didn't think I had enough content or expertise to write one. So I get an email in my inbox from a company called Adams Media, and they said, hey, we're a subsidiary of Simon & Schuster. We would like for you to write a book. And I was like, oh, this must be one of those scams that try to like take all my money, and I'm not gonna do that. Then a friend of mine said, do you not know who Simon & Schuster is? I was like, no, I actually don't. And it turns out they're one of the top 5 publishers in the world. So I did take that call. And I was actually scouted from a talk like this. So this is your sign to get up and talk more on stages. I was speaking at FinCon. How many of you have been to FinCon? Yay! So FinCon is specifically for personal finance, and they saw my talk at FinCon, and that's how they pitched me the book. So here's the great news. I got the book deal October 2023, and the book was done by April. So I wrote an entire 60,000 word book in 6 months, but it was because I was able to repurpose probably 80% of that book from the content that I bet you already have. So let's not reinvent the wheel here, and let's get paid more money, shall we? So we're gonna get into the 5 steps. Step 1, take notes. That's actually pre-step. Take notes today. I'm a personal finance nerd. That's actually where my expertise is. I am Crush Your Money Goals, Bernadette Joy. My name is Bernadette, y'all. I was born to do this. My husband and I, we paid off $300,000 of debt in 3 years. We built our first $1 million of net worth in our 30s. I am turning 40 in February, and I will be retiring. Thank you. Thank you. So when I say that this is probably the most important step, if you want to make more money, you can't just say, I want to make more money. Because how many of us have said that and then didn't make more money, right? You have to have a clear goal. So today, your homework assignment, if you haven't already, is to calculate your FINE number. How many of you have heard of the FIRE movement? Financial independence, retire early. What I figured out, I was already on 2 podcasts this weekend, and both people, when I said I'm gonna retire at 40, they were like, well, you're never gonna retire because I love what I do, and you just don't even know what I would do when I retire. I'm like, y'all do that. I'm gonna be doing lots of other stuff than making money, okay? So actually in the book, I talk about your FINE number, which is financial independence next endeavor. I have enough money to do whatever, excuse my language, the fuck I want. Okay? There is an actual calculation to this, and it's actually quite simple to calculate, but hard to achieve. It is 25 times your annual expenses. Not your salary, not your income, how much you spend each year. So if you want to break this down further, Take the 5 expenses you want to calculate. Y'all are a bunch of nerds. Everyone's just like, all right. First is your housing. How much you spend on a rent or your mortgage. Number 2, how much you spend on your utilities each month. So let's think if you're like, oh, it varies every month. Think about this month, okay? How much you spent on housing, on utilities, on transportation. So if you have a car, if you have a Metro card, if you have insurance, gas, all of that, right? Things you need to get out of your house, right? Food, this is where people start groaning. They're like, oh my gosh, I had so much DoorDash. I don't care. I don't care. However much you spend on food, whether you ate at home or groceries. And then the last thing is your health expenses. So that can be anything from your therapy to your insurance deductibles to the stuff you buy at Target to make sure you're clean and you don't smell. Please make sure you don't smell. So those 5 expenses, add that up, and that's your monthly expenses for your basic living, right? We're not on a yacht, we're not like balling out, but we have everything that we need, right? Then you take that number, you multiply it by 12, that's your annual. Then you multiply it, this is where people start having heart palpitations, right? And by 25. Now, here's a fun little story about why this book is so awesome for me. There is a guy named William Bengen. You can look him up. He is as nerdy as you would expect a mathematician to look like. And he did a study that basically said, if you use this number and you invest this amount, then you will theoretically never run out of money. Because what happens when you invest the money instead of putting it under your mattress? What does it do? It compounds, it grows. So this number can't be just in cash, it has to be in investments. One thing for me is 2 weeks ago, I get a LinkedIn request from a William Bengen. I was like, hold on. And I messaged him immediately. I'm like, am I being catfished right now? Are you really William Bengen? He's like, for the last 77 years, I think I have been, and I go by Bill. So hopefully you'll hear William Bengen on my podcast in the next couple of weeks. And why this number is important is because how many of you knew this number up before you got to this room? The rest of us, we're just like out here wondering how much money we need to make. And cannot avoid the reality. If you want to retire ever, let alone early in the US, likely you're gonna need at least $1 million. You will not get there by continuing to let people pick your brain for free. Some of y'all needed to hear that today. I told this to a friend yesterday. I said, gentle reminder, while you are letting other people pick your brain for free, someone way less qualified is charging a lot more for a high consulting fee with worse service. So, the reason I get this number up front is because you need to decide today, am I gonna keep doing shit for free or am I gonna start getting paid? And closing the gap between how much I make and this number, all right? Step 2, we need to start thinking, I need to create value, I need to stop thinking I need to go viral. I have never really gone viral. I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. Some of these talks are amazing, but they're like, yeah, you can do this once you get 100,000 followers and then you'll be rich. That has never happened to me. Right now I have 1,000 followers on Instagram and that took me 10 years to get to. So I'm showing you things today that you can do without having a huge followership base. But what I am seeing right now is all of us are spread too thin, thinking we have to be on every single platform all day, every day. Stop that shit. You at most need 2 long-form platforms and 2 short-form platforms. That is it. I have never been on TikTok. I never felt like I needed to go there, okay? So for me, I have YouTube and I have my podcast. And really, it's the same thing. I'm just doing the YouTube and then the podcast. Here's a little tip. Instead of putting them at the same time, what I'm doing is I'm recording all of the YouTube videos, and then I'm taking the best of those interviews and then releasing them as a podcast season in the back half of the year so that I'm repurposing the content, but not at the same time, right? And I'm picking the best of the best on that. And then for your short form, right now, I'm on Instagram, but really I'm on Threads. Anyone else on Threads and liking it? I like Threads. I like the vibes there. And LinkedIn. So you need to pick at most 2. Because what I'm finding is a lot of people are trying to repurpose content to all these different places and your content sucks. Okay? So, but the difference is, when I use long form content, I use it for thought leadership because you cannot do thought leadership on short form. I just don't think you can do it. So thought leadership really is for those long form places, and then what I use social media for is for testing. I don't care about likes. I don't care about followers. I use short form to test out new ideas that I might create new content around, whether it's for my book or for my podcast or other places. So, to show you that you do not need to go viral. Up here, you see this is my podcast. I have 78 episodes since 2018. That's not that many though. How many of you have heard people like, I'm on episode 500 and I've been on it for 20 years. I'm sorry, I'm just not a consistent person. I just haven't been able to achieve that. I have 78 episodes, but I decided to do it seasonally. I'm like Squid Game on Netflix. Basically, I just pop in nowhere and I'm like, here, 10 episodes. On the bottom here, you see just re-ramped up our YouTube channel, and it says I have 528 videos, but the majority of those are shorts that were cut from the long form. But you can see I only have 5,000-ish subscribers, so how did I get to $900,000 if I don't have that many subscribers? Well, to my own horn, that I think I'm excellent at making value out of opportunities. I was all up on that app and was like, y'all better come to my session if you want to learn how to make some money. And then what I did was I reached out to people who I really felt were thought leaders, and they don't know me from a hole in the wall, but I've already done 4 interviews. 2 of them were from the Podcast Hall of Fame. And those will go up on my YouTube channel. And John, who I just met yesterday, we traded books, and he shared me immediately to his 700,000 followers. But I had to reach out to him. So this goes into why I use short form for testing. Here is an example of a post that I just had in my head this past week, and it says, this sounds dumb, but I just made a really obvious realization. I am not a content creator. I'm not in the business of brand sponsorships, affiliate marketing, or ads. I've only had 1 brand sponsorship my entire career. I made $330K last year from focusing on my actual business of coaching, thought leadership, and live speaking. The internet will have you believing you need to go viral to be successful. It is a lie to keep you on the hamster wheel of making money for them. That got 159 likes, which is way more than the 2 that I usually get. So my thought was, I need to go make more content on this on Threads. It said, no, I need to take this off of Threads and I need to make a podcast episode around this. Or show up to Podfest and do a talk around this. So do you see how we're not just trying to do the hamster wheel on the short form? We're taking the short form testing and putting it into long form. Now over here, this totally blew my mind. I am 40 in a couple of weeks and I don't know how to swim. And so I said, I'm gonna learn how to swim before I turn 40. And so I wrote on my, in slightly embarrassing news, I just signed up for beginner swim lessons at my neighborhood rec center, and I'm really nervous and excited about it. What's something that you feel like you should be able to do as an adult but never learned? I got 12,000 likes. I got 200 people telling me all the shit they don't know how to do as adults. Apparently a lot of people don't know how to ride a bike, is what I learned, right? And that was just from Instagram when I reposted it from Threads, and I got another 800. I'm taking that, and now I'm thinking about a series of doing thought leadership around different topics that people say they don't know how to do as adults. So this is how we test on short form and create better thought leadership long form content. All right, step 3 is, now that you have some ideas on things that you want to talk about, you don't have to build your own ship. You can get on other people's ship. So, step 3 is to get paid by larger platforms to repeat what you already have. So once you figure out it was good on short form, then write the longer form article. And for those of you who are interested in writing books, this is my biggest hack for you. This is how I got paid to write my book on top of getting the advance. For Forbes, I write for CNET, I write for CNBC. You know how they all found me? From my tweets and my threads. Here's a prime example. This says, 39-year-old self-made millionaire, 7 frugal habits I will never give up no matter how much money I have. That was a tweet that was on before I deleted Twitter. And a reporter reached out to me and said, hey, would you be willing to write an article and we'll pay you for this article? Then what did I do? I took that article and I used the content of that in my book. Now, here's a little secret. Is looking for contributors all the time. They don't pay a ton of money. I get paid anywhere between $50 to $450 per article, depending on the publication and whatever. You can put your content on here, on my platform with millions and millions of people, and it only has to be exclusive to us for 5 days. After which you could take the content verbatim and use it wherever else you want. So when I got the call from Simon & Schuster, said, hey, can we get a sample of your writing? I just sent them my last 10 Forbes articles. The book was already partly written. And here's the beauty of it. All along the way, I was having professional editors tell me where my writing was good and where it was bad. And in real time, because they were posting out to Forbes, I could see which articles were doing better and which ones I should maybe not include in the book. When Simon & Schuster reached out to me, their original request was to write 100 habits. And I was like, nobody wants a book about 100 habits, right? I said, I'll write 25 because I already have a system called Crush. I'll write 5 per habit. Each of those habits were probably an article on Forbes. That's how I was able to write a book in 6 months when most people take a year. So, other thing you can do if you're not getting paid yet is to do what everyone's been telling us to do, is to be a guest in other places. And specifically, podcasts and speaking are where I get the most bang for my buck, pun intended. And so you can see here, I bet literally every money podcaster probably is some of the biggest ones. Am I gonna get as many followers as Planet Money at this point? No. So why am I trying? Let me just go on Planet Money. So when you think about what you're trying to do, don't be afraid to pitch your quote-unquote competitors, because actually they really want more people. If you're in a nice industry, we want all boats to rise. And all of these people saw me speak live, and that's why they invited me to speak on their podcast. So when you think about who's gonna buy, are you gonna buy a book from someone who, just Crush Your Money Goals, or are you gonna buy a book from Crush Your Money Goals featured in all these places? And it's not as hard as you think to get there, but you do have to have a good pitch. We get specific. Let me get an age check here. You down with OPP? Yeah, That's right. OPP, other people's platforms. Other people's platforms. Actually, I learned the real meaning of that was not that. So we just made it PG here. I want you for 2025 to pick 5. Just 5, where you're gonna build deeper relationships with and do multiple pieces of content instead of just a one-time hit. So for me, this is where I focus on this year. This year, I just got offered to write a column for CNET Money, and so every month I'll be writing for them instead of just pitching them every couple months and when I have a random idea. Now I'm on the hook for having a good idea every month, right? For Forbes, I pitched them to not only do written, but now I do videos for them. So last month I wrote 4 articles, and they asked me to turn each of those articles into videos that's now part of their leadership series that is sponsored by one of their advertisers, and so I get paid to do that. But what am I reading on the script? It's my own writing. Here I was the host of FinCon. I was also the host of their Women in Money. I have been also their new orientation person for the last 2 years, and I've helped them build other content. And so I have made it known to them. You know how I got the hosting gig at FinCon? I asked them. I said, hey, if you're looking for a host next year, I would love to be considered. And then they actually considered me. I was like, oh, that shit worked. That's cool, right? And then over here are two examples of my employer relationship. So relationship with Sattva Mattress. And what I'm doing is I'm doing financial wellness programs for their employees across the country. And what they did was they realized that this was good PR for them because it makes them look good. And so now they've been posting me to all of their customers and saying, hey, we brought in this financial expert who helps our employees. And I came up with a tag of like, I help their employees sleep better at night. Right? Thank you. I know, I was pretty proud of that one too. And then here is Dream Bank, American Family Insurance. And they have invited me to speak at multiple of their events. And fun origin story was when I was broke, $300,000 in debt, and I was doing my MBA program, I decided to go to a Property Brothers cruise because I was obsessed with HGTV back then. And I had to scratch up all my pennies to get to this Property Brothers cruise. And then this past year, we were both the speakers for this conference, right? So thank you. All right, step 5. I know you've heard this in various iterations, but I need you to hear me today. When the trolls come for you, because they will. Every day, I get comments from people of like, race doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about. They will come for you. If you're saying things that are actually meaningful and thought leadership, someone is not going to agree with you. If no one is disagreeing with you, then you're not saying anything substantive. So I want you to not only not shut up, but I need you to speak louder and clearer. And so I wrote this, part of my early career at Goldman Sachs, the broiest of the bro banks, where a managing director told me he didn't like my communication style and he wanted me to act more professionally. What he meant was that I don't speak like him. Last week, I was on live TV with the New York Stock Exchange as a personal finance expert whose book was recommended as one of Oprah's top picks this year. Perhaps my communication style wasn't the problem. Okay? So if you're ever getting this doubt that you're not saying the right thing, it might be the wrong audience, it might be the wrong place, but it's probably not you. Okay? So if you want to learn more about me, you want to stay connected, crushyourmoneygoals.com is where I am based out of. Here are my 4 channels only that I am on. Thank you so much. So the question was, how are you so comfortable with self-promotion? Honest, I just got tired of being broke. That's really it. I realized if I just kept quiet and I didn't say what I was doing, and I'm gonna say this especially to the ladies in the room, there's a lot of conversation right now of like know worth, know your value, all this stuff, but we're assuming that people know. You know, every day I get requests for free speaking gigs, for free labor, all this other stuff, and sometimes I wanna be like, do you not know that Oprah picked my book? Right? People genuinely don't know. Most of you have never met me until today. So if I don't say it, how are you gonna find out?
That's right.
So really, being comfortable with it, the easiest way that I found to be comfortable in promoting myself is doing the thing I said I was gonna do and finish what I started. A lot of us don't feel confident because we start something, but we don't finish it. So whatever you have when you get home that you didn't finish, go and do that today.
Everybody give a big thank you to Bernadette.
Much for your time and your talent. Appreciate you.